He's here. So the last chapter ended off with the surface impression that the villain's plan had been completely foiled. Shigaraki's tank had been broken, he's no longer breathing and has no heartbeat, as well as the doctor being apprehended by President Mike. But of course, we all knew it wasn't the end for our boy. We all knew he was going to wake up and start wreaking havoc, but the question remained how it was going to be executed. Well, we're all about to find out. The chapter opens up with Mike getting ready to carry the doctor out of the hideout. He wants the doctor to order the remaining Nomu to stop putting up a fight against the other pro heroes, as well as making sure X-Less deals with the unconscious Shigaraki Tomura. X-Less notices the tubes to the machine that was powering up Shigaraki acted as a barrier so the machine wouldn't be completely destroyed, so he thinks it'd be best to destroy the tubes so the machine can stop being functional. I wonder if this guy is related to Aoyama in some way, since they have incredibly similar quirks. I mean, the lasers they have just come out of different body parts of their respective bodies. That's like the only difference. As Mike begins to rush out of the hideout with the doctor in his arms, the doctor begins to tell Mike about how his quirk singularity theory was mocked by society 70 years ago. A quick reminder for those who don't know or forgot, the quirk singularity theory the doctor thought of was quirks will become more and more uncontrollable as generations pass each other more. Continuing by saying even in an era where the world was struggling to be peaceful again, they didn't believe there was anything that could make the future worse. Mike remembers the scholar who presented the theory, talking about the doctor of course, went missing after the theory was rejected, and he was said to have passed away a few years after that. If he were alive, he'd be 120 years old. So, I guess Dr. Shigaraki was 50 when he first presented his thesis to society and is currently keeping his 50-year-old appearance right now. The doctor continues by saying All For One was the only person who gave him the time of day when it came to this thesis. Even though All For One has been out of commission for a while, I still have loads of respect for this man as an evil mastermind. The fact that he was held up in such high regard by a genius doctor, for the doctor to call him a real living god is insane. I really hope we can learn more about how All For One was in his prime before he fought All Might for the first time. It doesn't even have to be in the main manga per se. I'd be down for like a side manga / one shot about him, kind of like how, Vigilantes is a thing. The doctor also mentions the quirk that's in his body is just a duplicate of the original. I'm pretty sure it's implied that he gave the original preservation quirk to All For One due to him saying he devoted the quirk to him. Mike starts getting really disgusted by the way the doctor is acting too. He's like, damn, I'm messing with a terribly large and dreadful thing right here. The feeling of repulsion was becoming even stronger than his wrath against the doctor, and that's saying a lot when you know Mike and Aizawa had more beef with the doctor than any other hero because of what he did to Shirakumo. Now this has got to be one of the best panels and or double spreads Horikoshi has ever drawn. Holy fuck. So we're inside the mind of Shigaraki right now with all these severed hands falling from the sky. Shigaraki is standing on top of a broken platform which might be part of his old house. There's a crushed up building floating next to him, a traffic light, another part of a house, and at the very bottom of the page below him is a city with even more hands sticking out from the streets between the buildings below. It's very similar to how Deku's One For All dreams work in a sense, but with a lot more detail in the dreamscape. And it kind of makes sense that these dreams are similar because One For All originated from All For One. The first person Shigaraki sees in this dreamscape is his late older sister Hana. She's standing on another destroyed platform across from Shigaraki, telling him sorry for making it a secret and that she's on his side. I believe she's referring to when they both snuck into their father's study to find the picture of their grandmother Shimura Nana. Can I just say that it's insane how jacked Shigaraki looks in these panels? This dude was a twig and a half when he was first introduced. He's not like All Might or Mirio levels of buff, but he's still very cut, Good job on him for getting those gains. Next, his mother ends up being behind him, but she's ginormous. His sister was normal sized, but his mom is over here as big as Mountain Lady, asking him if he still wants to be a hero. She points out that he's rubbed his eyes so much and they'll only get itchier if he keeps scratching them. Shigaraki then reverts back to his younger black-haired self to assure his mom that he's fine. His late father Kotaro comes into the dream now yelling at Tenko for sneaking into his study. His dad is being displayed in an even larger form than his mother, trying to put his giant hand onto Shigaraki. I'm sure this is representing when Kotaro actually did slap his son across the face in the past, but in a much more abstract way, obviously, due to this being a dreamscape. Shigaraki puts his tiny hand out to match his father's hand and completely disintegrates him, and thus his hair changed back to its current color. Exactly like how his hair changed when he finished killing his family originally. From the spot where his giant father was just located, All For One emerges from the shadows, telling Shigaraki to come to him. Once again, another similarity to the One For All dream here is the way the shadows are covering All For One. It's a lot like how the shadows were covering Deku when he had the dream about All For One's brother at the end of the Pro Hero arc. We then cut back to Mike and the doctor, with the doctor talking about how All For One had a feeling he was going to be defeated one day, so he entrusted everything to Shigaraki. It also shows the part of the machine showing Shigaraki's completion status still at 75% with the left side of it being cracked. Exless, you're lagging, dog. You gotta break that machine, bro. The doctor says All For One passed on his own quirk, but he also has his own replicated version of it, just like the doctor, but the original was being passed down to Shigaraki. So hopefully I'm not misinterpreting anything here, but it seems like, you know, once All For One decided to make Shigaraki his successor, at some point he must have had the doctor replicate the All For One quirk for All For One to use, while the original All For One quirk be kept incubated until Shigaraki was ready to take it. Which means Shigaraki could, in theory, have the Doctor's preservation quirk as well. Unless the preservation quirk had been mixed with the duplicated All For One quirk. It's a little tough to follow, but yeah. As Shigaraki begins to get closer to All For One's shadow, his family appears again trying to stop him. And the way they grab onto him with their hands corresponds with how Shigaraki wore their disembodied hands on his villain outfit. His mom's hands on his neck, one hand from his sister, his grandparents, each on his left arm. His father emerges from All For One's spiritual body to put his hand on his face. We also see Shimura Nana holding the back of his head with her left hand. I don't think it was ever confirmed until now that the back head hand was her hand. It's really interesting for that to be the case because Nana had already been dead before Shigaraki killed the rest of his family. So I think the theory that All For One somehow gave Shigaraki decay so he would kill his family is more prevalent than ever here. Since All For One would have killed Nana the same way Shigaraki killed everyone else, hence her hand being left behind in an identical manner to the rest of the victims. That is some galaxy brain shit by All For One if that ends up being the case too. So while Nana is holding the back of Shigaraki's head, she says, "Don't forget us." We get a small shot of little Tenko again with the same expression he had when he saw the picture of Nana in his dad's study, so he still remembers who she is, but he quickly decays her and the rest of his family with one flick of the wrist telling them to stop, "Don't deny me anymore," as he walks into the spiritual embodiment of All For One. Exless is still holding on to Shigaraki's unconscious body, however, one of the tubes from the machine sparks up into the puddle that Shigaraki is lying in, jolting him awake, making him ready to strike. Exless, you fumbled the bag so hard, man. How long does it take to charge up one laser eye? I don't understand. So he's 100% dying either next chapter or a few chapters down the line. 100%. Unfortunate. For the first time in ages, we get a glimpse of the evacuation team in the city. We see Bakugo, Todoroki, Ochako, and Nejire directing citizens out, but Deku, off to the side, gets an unsettling feeling, realizing the new King of Darkness is about to strike bigger than ever before. My god, this chapter was incredible. This is easily a top 5 chapter for this arc. The entire dreamscape sequence alone was incredibly well done, especially the first double shot or double spread with the hands in the city. Oh my god. Knowing Horikoshi though, I have a feeling we may end up cutting back to the mansion at the start of the next chapter, considering how this chapter ended. Horikoshi likes to do that. He'll end certain parts off at cliffhangers and then cut back to different locations, which I wouldn't necessarily mind or be opposed to because we'll get more Dabi, Hawks, and Tokoyami action. But at the same time, the mansion stuff could be put on hold until Shigaraki gives word to Gigantomachia to go wild over there. One thing's for sure though, I want to see All For One die this arc so badly. I feel like I've said this a lot before, but he needs to die. Like, with Shigaraki having the OG All For One quirk now, All For One as a character serves zero purpose. Like, he serves no purpose to exist in present day now. None whatsoever. And Shigaraki needs to be the one to end him. He needs to be the one to end him. It'd be so perfect. Thankfully, no break next week either, because this bi-weekly shit has been rough when it comes to all the waiting. Oh, thank God, no break. I think that just about does it for this video, though. It finally seems like we're about to enter the climax for this arc, and I'm so glad to be a part of the journey. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this chapter and how you think the next chapter could pan out. I'd love to know your thoughts. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.